What is it?
No, that's Milbillie was changing colours.
Was he? Yeah.
That's crazy.
But how do you manage to make yourself smaller and bigger then? Is it just zoom in on the camera?
All I'm doing is using OBS.
Yeah.
Onboard software, broadcasting software, and it's feeding right into StreamYard.
Yeah.
So basically, I just load whatever image I want onto the OBS program, layer it, and I don't know, I can do tons of stuff now. I can make my own overlays.
Yeah. And have you got a green screen, or does the OBS automatically put that picture on the background for you?
No, I got a green screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. And so, in other words, you've got some extra sort of lighting to help.
All I have on is my ceiling light, and I have two lights to the right and left of me.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same. I've got a fluorescent light there. I've got the light overhead, and I've actually got a couple of like bedside lamps. They're not huge power, but anyway. Hi Kelly and hi Colette. Let's get the sporting nonsense over and done with first of all, shall we? So, bad news, Milbillie, for the Packers yesterday. Can you just quickly explain what happened?
They almost won, but they fell a little short.
Yep.
But they're still in first place.
Yeah, they're still very good. They're still, what was it? Is it 5? Well, I mean, they went into the game against Minnesota Vikings of all the teams. You know, I mean, I know it's Go Packers, F the Bears, but I mean, the Minnesota Vikings are equally disliked, surely, amongst Packers fans, are they?
It's more the Bears than it is the Vikings.
It is more, yeah.
Or the Cowboys.
Sorry?
Or the Cowboys.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Minnesota at one time, I remember a couple of years back, they were really struggling, but they seem to have found some new players because did one of the guys score all the 4 touchdowns?
Yeah, they're running back.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was bizarre because the points that Green Bay scored were all, I always get this name confused. It's not Devontae Sanford, who's obviously a famous exoneration. It's Devontae
Adams.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, not so good for the Packers. Certainly not very good for my team, Villa. We lost again. I think it was 4-1 the last time I saw it, and then I stopped tuning in to see what was, what the disaster was. But anyway, there's not much sporting events going on in Australia at the moment, are there, Doctor?
No. All the AFL footy is finished.
Yep.
But tomorrow we got the Melbourne Cup.
Oh,
you
right.
know, that little horse race.
Yeah.
That captures the world. Yeah. Yep. So, I don't think a crowd is permitted at the grounds. I think only a small number of people. Normally, over 100,000 people go and watch that race.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be like a virtual type of race. I mean, obviously the horses are there and the jockeys, but the atmosphere will be very, very different. But in South Australia, my state, the Premier has actually got rid of the car race that we have every year, and the bike race, the Tour Down Under. They've just got rid of it because of COVID-19. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a tragedy.
Yep. Let's say hello to a few more people. JD, Sean, Disco Pervert, Big Dog. Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to Villa got beat 4-3 in the end. Oh, well, it was 4-1 the last time I saw, but 4-3. Still a loss, but anyway, not to worry. The other thing was, of course, I was going to say to Milbillie, if you'd like to ask Dr. Silkman what the score was in the New Zealand game, but maybe not, because he might go off in a huff.
No. And mind you, I'm wearing a black T-shirt too.
Oh, right, yeah, yes, yeah. What? In mourning or in honour of the All Blacks?
Both. No, they're an awesome outfit.
So I take it
credit's due.
They lost?
Yeah, I'm afraid it was.
I don't know what the final score was.
It was something like 40 points to 5 or 40 points to 7. It was a big, and of course, the thing is, as you were saying, the All Blacks. I don't know if I'm not that fond of them. I don't think it's right that they get to do this haka before every game, along with the other, of the. The Pacific Island teams.
Yes,
I don't think that's on. I think it gives them an unfair advantage at the start. I've always felt that. Although they reckon that the players, they soon brush it aside. But I just feel that they've when the rest of the world rugby were amateur rugby union, you were on about in the amateur game. They were clearly professional long before everybody else. And the rest of the world is catching up. And of course, when it comes to, you probably don't know this, but when it comes to the rugby sevens, sevens-a-side tournaments?
Yes.
Well, in the seven-a-side tournament, by the way, it was the seven-a-side rugby was invented in Melrose, which is just 2 miles away.
Okay.
That's where it was invented. And one of the best. Now, it's not taken them long, but one of the world leaders when it comes to the sevens is USA.
Why?
Well, yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, when you think about it, if you've got all these players that don't quite make it in American football, what do they go and do? You get half of these fellas playing rugby. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, they've got the
yes.
They've already got the people there to be effective. Anyway, we're digressing. At least I was pleased that Scotland managed to beat Wales in Wales first again in rugby. First time they've done that for about. Since the early noughties, 2003, I think, 2000 and something. So that was good. Yeah, I don't know, big dog. I don't like the haka, and I don't like the fact that the opposition players are not allowed to advance. When France did that in the World Cup final, they were castigated for it. It's I would quite happily get them to ditch the haka. It's anyway. It's just one of these things. I'm not I like New Zealanders in general. They're very good. They sound a bit like Australians, but there is clearly slight differences, aren't there? It's a bit like American and Canadian.
Yes, you in some of the pronunciations are very, very different.
But it's the sort of thing that maybe an Australian would notice more than, say, somebody from outside of those two,
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, and then yes, they do seem at times to be quite laid back. They're
awesome people.
Yeah.
You remember? Oh, this was years ago when New Zealand had that massive earthquake.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, the University of Adelaide, where I worked, took in a lot of students.
All right.
From New Zealand to come to Adelaide Uni to continue their degrees.
Ah, right, yeah.
And the students, they were just fantastic, humble, but you could tell straight away from their accents that they were so different.
Wow.
But, truly lovely people, and they came over to complete their degree or to continue their degree at Adelaide Uni, and it was a great blend. And of course, they would stir us up about their rugby team and sport, the cricket. So yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
But don't worry, when it comes to accents, you wait till you hear somebody from Hoik start speaking. They've not just got their own accent; they've got their own language. It's unique in Scotland, isn't that right, big dog? we'll have a chat sometime and soon, and we'll discuss further. First of all, Milbillie, you asked us a question earlier on about what time does it get dark? Would you like to just go over that again for us?
Well, according to Kratz asking Robert Fabian questions on the stand, he states that at around 5:30 p.m., him and Earl were rabbit hunting, and they pulled upon Stephen Avery's trailer between the garage and the trailer.
Yeah.
And, like, I know you do hunt rabbits when it's getting dark, but you're not hunting rabbits when it's completely dark.
Sure.
So their timeline's off.
Yeah. But the other interesting thing, of course, you've got that bit of audio clip that you posted. It's to do with the fact that, as you pointed out, I think a couple of weeks back, when he's on about the fact that there's smoke that he's, getting in his eyes. Is that what he says?
Yep. He says they stopped between the trailer and the garage. Stephen was exiting the trailer going towards the garage, and he asked Earl to move the golf cart because the smoke from the burn barrel was getting in his eyes. That's over 145 feet away.
Yeah.
And not to mention the wind reports for that day completely debunk what he's saying.
Yeah. And if he was going to move the car further away from the burn barrel, there's nowhere really to move it to. But if you were going to move from where the car is parked and the burn pit, if you were going to move the car further away, you would be moving towards the, away from.
Based upon his statements, they were facing away from the burn barrel.
Yeah.
Because if they were facing towards the burn barrel, him moving the golf cart forward would bring him closer to the burn barrel.
Yeah. So, are we of the opinion then that clearly, there have been a lot of people who have had pressure brought upon them to come up with a certain narrative in this?
Well, you got to look in the order in which Kratz called everybody.
Yeah.
It was the state presenting their case.
Yeah.
So he gets Bobby Dassey to state that he's seen Teresa on the property. He left. She didn't. Now he's got Blaine Dassey saying that he seen Stephen place a bag in a burn barrel. And then he's got Fabian come in stating that the burn barrel was on fire.
Yeah. But we've also got this infamous joke between later on, apparently. I'm not sure what day are we sorry, two-part question. Do we think that there really was this conversation, this joke, and when did it actually occur?
Well, if this conversation did in fact occur, it happened before she was even on a news reported missing.
Yeah, in the trial, it's presented as being something like the 10th of November. 10th.
Yes.
And that couldn't possibly be the case, could it?
Well, in trial, Kratz agrees that it was the day that they said it happened. But if you read the case reports, Mike Robinson says he was never there.
Well, nor was Steve. Steve once he'd gone up to Crivets on the Friday, he never gets back to the salvage yard, does he?
Well, Court, yes, he tried to. He was at the Jam Creek checkpoint on November 8th around 7 p.m., accompanied by Barb Tadich, which they let her in there you hear in a dispatch call that he's with some blonde women with glasses and they're there to get some keys.
Sure.
We and Fassbender say, we're on our way over there. They rush over to the checkpoint. They let Barb in. She's in there for about 10 minutes and then they leave.
And that story couldn't have occurred on the 10th because Stephen Avery was arrested on the 9th.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing, as Milbillie said, that if it actually occurred, I think on the Tuesday prior, that's before Teresa was actually, before it became common knowledge that she was reported missing. And furthermore, what Bobby said was nothing but hearsay, right? So that whole aspect of the testimony was just pure garbage, right? And
Correct.
how can you allow that in a court of law where Ken Kratz didn't actually call Mike to the stand, right?
Yeah.
To testify.
Well, I mean, it certainly, you see Dean and Jerry, they're completely bamboozled by it. What on earth is going on here,
Yeah.
And you've got Kratz saying, "Oh well, I get to call what witness I want," and in effect, does he use the word "I prepare my witnesses"? Or
Yes.
Yeah, because in the press conference after that day in court, the press was grilling him about why did you not call Mike Owen? Why did you use Bobby Dassey for this statement? And he states that exact same thing. Well, I prepare my witnesses. I choose who I call.
But the other thing, Milbillie, was that at the press conference where Ken Kratz was severely embarrassed, you could tell because they called him out on that. He goes, "Well, I don't consider that part of the testimony relevant to this case." He tried to
limit it. Yeah.
Because what Strang and Buting were telling the judge, well, we want a mistrial, judge. We want a mistrial. Based on all this ridiculous hearsay, because that caught the defense off guard. They weren't prepared for that statement regarding hiding a body in a closet type stuff, and of course that paints Stephen Avery in a bad light, right? What's he making these crass remarks where nobody even knows that Teresa allegedly is missing? So he's acting like Nostradamus and projecting his guilt. That's what Ken Kratz was trying to use it for.
Yeah, it was really just to it was a fact that was obviously blown up straight away. It was just ridiculous that Kratz felt that he could get away with it, but it just plants that little seed, doesn't it, in people? You can't unring the bell once you've said that in front of a jury. But sorry, let's go back then. Does anybody think that this conversation actually took place?
I want to know more if there's a police report for this deer that Bobby picked up.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
That's my point.
Yeah.
Well, we know he ran and got tagged, didn't he? You have to get tags for these deers.
Yes, you do.
And we've got, obviously he's busy, preparing or dressing this deer. And the contrast between the cops go into Steve's garage, find no blood whatsoever. What on earth would they have found next door's garage, where he's been busy preparing and dressing this deer? But as I say, does anybody think that conversation even took place between Steve, Mike, and Bobby? And the reason I ask that is because
only those three would know.
Yeah, the reason I ask this is because if Dean and Jerry were completely bamboozled by it, they didn't even know about this question. It makes you wonder, they've spent all this time with Steve.
Yes.
If Steve had said that, he would have mentioned it to him,
Yeah. But again, it's hearsay.
Yeah.
Right? So it's non-admissible, right? It's what Bobby Dassey was recalling what Mike Osmondson said to him, right?
Ken Kratz's only job is to convince 12 people.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's up to the jury. And in actual fact, and Milbillie will back me up on this, the jury wanted to look at various aspects of Bobby Dassey's testimony, right? So I think that the jury realized how crucial that testimony was against Stephen.
Yeah. When they asked to review Culhane's testimony, they know exactly what they want to hear. Right. It's like, were they not listening to Bobby Dassey talk?
Well, do they want the whole of his testimony or just certain parts of it?
I think they wanted certain parts of it.
That's the thing, but the judge tells him you have to rely on your memory of what you've seen happen in trial.
Yeah.
Popped with my mind.
Because his testimony was a crucial turning point, in my opinion. Just like when they brought in Scott Tadich to talk about the fire.
Or how about when they're going after Culhane, and then the judge is like, all right, that's enough of that. We're going to move on.
Correct. Because that was because I read Cherie Culhane's part. Foul player doing the.
I've read the whole trial. Read the whole thing. And Strang, Buting was brutal in his questioning, non-stop. I think it'd been better if Buting would have did his closing argument instead of Strang.
I agree.
And the fact that, like Jerry Buting's recent tweet on the 31st, 15 years up to the day that Teresa Hallback went missing. Not that Teresa Hallback was killed. She went missing.
Yes.
And every time they asked Dean Strang, do you think Stephen Avery's guilty? He said, I don't believe that's the right question. I'm not convinced in his guilt.
Yes.
But,
I know. It's not in fact.
Jerry Buting's question, he says straight up, yes, I believe he's innocent.
Yep. In an interview that when they all got together, all the attorneys, they asked Strang, do you think he's guilty? And he goes, look, I really hope he is, because the mere fact of Stephen being in prison, wrongfully convicted twice, it'll just be unfathomable. And that's pretty remarkable for Strang, who defended Stephen, to make a comment like that. You know, it's amazing.
But isn't it just a case of that's, for want of a better word, professionalism? You know, you don't go against. You know, I mean, look. One of the things.
There's even reporters ask him to this day, and some of them won't even comment yes or no if they think he's innocent or guilty.
Sure, but hi, Mark. First of all, nice to have you back here.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't join you until now. Hello, gentlemen.
No worries. First of all, if you remember last week, Milbillie had a question. I didn't know if you had a chance to speak to Steve at all this week.
I have. I actually spoke to him twice.
Ah, right.
Yeah, I spoke to him on Wednesday, I think it was. Wednesday morning, my time, and Friday morning, my time. So, yeah, he's... I passed on those comments. They're not something I can pass on over the public airways, but but he's very good, in very good spirits, and it was very good to speak with him. I was just thinking as I was coming online tonight, even though it's totally the wrong time of day for Wisconsin, it'd be kind of fun one time if I was on here and he rang me. So
that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
doing the podcast.
Yeah. Well, we'll just make up another little square on the screen here.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
it's
anyway.
Sorry, there was a question, a comment made here that from Bose. Just text me on your site, Paul, and said some things I find hard to believe. So we'll make you aware in case you are having technical difficulty with Bose. Well, actually, we did have about a 20-minute sort of backstage chat, and he was trying to first of all say that this idea that Steve is from a lower class of background, that as I said, I've been to Manitrot. There's some nice big houses, well-to-do people. You look at the contrast between the people who are well-to-do, well-off in their nice big houses, and you look at people that live on a scrapyard. And he was having none of this, saying, oh well, no. The Avery family, but their scrapyard was doing very well. Yes, well, in the 18 years between Steve being arrested and wrongfully convicted in 85 and being released in 03, they've got this area of land which is worth a certain amount, and they've got this this site up at Crivich, but I mean, it's beggars belief to imagine that that people, the well-to-do people in Manitowoc, don't look down on the Averys because of the kind of work they do. I mean, you're not going to find a whole load of the Averys, trundling off to church on a Sunday morning, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
From the salvage yard, they're not gonna suddenly get up, Sunday morning, think, oh, we're going. Do you know what I mean? So this whole notion that there was,
we're going hunting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They're up in Crivets anyway. And the other thing he tried to really push was this business of Steve wasn't targeted at the beginning, and it's like, hold on a second, we've got this police officer arriving at the yard.
She's reported missing at 2:37 p.m. Within 16 hours, Stephen Avery is the only person's name that's missing in the group of people that are seen.
Yeah.
They don't mention anybody else. They just said, and one of the last persons she was seen with was Stephen Avery. They don't mention the zippers, backman, none of them.
And and also Ken Kratz mentions in his book that investigator Wiggett came running to his room, to his office, and says, guess where the last place that Teresa Horbuck was at? At Stephen Avery Salvage Yard.
And why is the state attorney general's assistant attorney general calling, wanting to talk to the Manitowoc district attorney as soon as possible, as soon as they find that car on Avery's property?
Yeah.
Well,
hey, could I just?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Add one little thing to. Sorry, I'm just going back a little bit to the comments you made before about the salvage yard and the Averys, or what other people were making. Like Alan Avery started that business in the mid 1960s from nothing, right? Mm-hmm. And worked his bum off. And Dolores used to drive the trucks and everything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And for people to somehow devalue them in any way, or what they do and etc., as being, I don't know, maybe they're not doing that, but they're just good, hardworking folk who make a life for themselves as best they can. I mean, exactly. They're salt of the earth people.
They're just living the American dream, trying to.
So, yeah, and they're just good people. That's all I want to say.
But unfortunately, because of your sort of different backgrounds, that will be the perception. The perception will be that people that are living on a salvage yard, on a junkyard, almost as if they are more capable of doing bad things, as it were. Forget what the sheriff's department is up to.
What do people have to base their opinions off? A documentary. They don't know these people. Nobody does.
No.
You do, Mark.
Yeah.
You do, Paul. You met them, but 99% of the people out here don't.
Yeah.
No.
And if I could just make a comment, sorry, Mark. Mark Godsey, in his book Blind Injustice, said one of the biggest issues is dehumanization.
Yeah.
Right? When you put a person in a bucket and you put a label over them, that of course, he's from a salvage yard, he's a lesser of a citizen, of course he's a murderer, right? So that dehumanization aspect is very, very important, very critical.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, the other thought that is so clear and obvious, that once they find once miraculously this RAV4 is found on the property, they search the property, and yet they search Steve's trailer 7 times. How many times is Andy Corbin and Jim Lenk in Steve's property?
Why after the 9th, Manitowoc's the key players don't come back? Colburn and Link never return.
Yeah,
they've done their stuff.
Yeah,
they did their job.
And why do you need anybody involved with Manitowoc Sheriff's Department to go to the garage at the beginning of March.
If Manitowoc was just brought in for just maintenance or just assisting with the search, why is Dave Remaker helping them sift bones?
Yeah.
Why are the same people finding things, the same people searching through the stuff?
Yeah, but as you say, Paul, all the way on to March, right?
Correct.
Yeah, there's no argument at all. There was never an argument, to be honest, but there was certainly no argument in March of 2006 as to why any Manitowoc official should be anywhere near that case.
Nope. We're the first ones to arrive. Jacobs, Link, Ramaker.
Exactly. They just had to be there to keep the charade going. That's why.
So Uyghur was rescheduling people's shifts so we could keep the same people. One of the officers was there for 36 hours straight.
Yeah.
How are you able to do something properly with no sleep?
No.
Yeah. But I mean, sorry, you remind me, of course, Remaker and Uyghur, they're talking about the fact that at first they're saying that they thought that Teresa had gone to the salvage yard and then gone to the zippers.
No, that was Uyghur was telling Remaker.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And then the boss had to change the plans.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was something that somebody commented on a video. Clearly a guilter. And they'd written, quote, Kathleen Zellner. I've never heard Kathleen Zellner say this, but this is a supposed quote. If I fail to get Stephen out, then he's guilty. I have never heard.
No,
I've never.
Kathleen
She's
Zellner.
never said that.
Not no exact words. No.
But it gets better. So
she
this person
has said, as we know, that to Stephen face to face, if you're guilty, I'm going to find out. So you know.
Yeah,
she definitely says that. So
and we have no idea what the state of Wisconsin is planning with regard to trying to get the Court of Appeals to try and create the same kind of roadblocks that Sutkovich has been coming up with. But then they carry on with if I fail to get Stephen out, then he's guilty. And then this person has put, she has failed to get Stephen out, therefore he's guilty. What I mean, I just don't get that logic. It's a bit like going back to what you were saying about Dean Strang. I think it's just a case of he's already said he likes Steve. I think that off the record, you ask him, and he's him and Jerry. They've already said they've got a good idea, a very, very good idea as to who is responsible. But I think on the record that this is something he has to say, and of course officially on the record, as it were, at the moment, Steve and Brendan are guilty. But I can't help thinking that this whole idea that because they are guilty at the moment, it's this mentality of, well, then they're guilty.
Yes,
which just doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. But I was going to say, Paul, the problem is with the criminal justice system, as you can see in the book Blind Injustice. What they want to do is they want to rule a line under your name. Yeah,
because their ultimate comeback is that, hey, look, you had a trial, you had a fair trial, you had fair representation, a jury, your peers found you guilty. So you've got no recourse. What? You had appeals, all your appeals were turned down. So to them, they'll say, hey, justice has been served. They quite clearly, the criminal justice system doesn't like the Innocence Project. Because the Innocence Project is getting a lot of people out of prison who are falsely accused, right?
Yeah.
So that now puts doubt in the entire chain in the criminal justice system. That can't be tolerated.
And if you were a truly professional, independent officer of the law, you'd be grateful for the knowledge that those innocent projects reveal and say, well, here is a template for things we need to do better. If you were truly independent professional, but they're not, right?
State has a right. Let her test everything that she wanted to. It's not going to That's going to cost them a penny. She's doing it all herself. She wants to retest everything.
Yeah,
correct.
I mean, you've just reminded me, Milbillie, that yes, they do want to test everything. Do they still want to test the item FL further to investigate what actually is on the surface of that bullet?
Well, Chris Palahniuk, he said that if you want me to, I can determine the species of the wood.
Right.
What the actual source of the wood is. Yeah. And furthermore, the identity of the red drop. As if say what type of paint or whatever type of thing
oil
it is.
Base, so latex, it's so much.
Yeah.
If you get your hands on the bones,
correct.
There's so much you can do there. Not just the DNA, it's compare the cut marks to all the other. It's so much.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still don't understand. I mean, this is just my ignorance. I still don't understand why the state gets so much say in what evidence can be retested.
Well,
I mean, why do they have
their possession?
But what I mean, just from a practical point of view, I mean, you are dealing with lawyers. There are arguments for doing things. Why can they be allowed to selectively choose what evidence they release? I just find that wrong. That's wrong.
That's why I believe that everything that's sealed, Zellner may not have.
So why do they get to? What would be the argument for sealing something? Short of being some culpable behavior, what would be the technical argument why you might seal something?
As far as it depends on what piece of evidence it is. If it's biological material, I could see that, but
I
don't know. The system here is screwy.
Yeah, I think the obvious answer there, Mark, is that potentially can weaken their case. Because I read some cases in which prosecuting DAs have refused to do DNA testing or release the DNA to be tested, and so I thought that the DA or the prosecuting attorneys had to hand over the evidence. Apparently, that isn't the case, because when Kathleen Zellner went with I think it was Carl Reich to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, they didn't give her all the evidence that she requested.
No,
they only gave her a limited amount of materials. Thankfully, one of the items that they released was item FL, right?
Yes.
But they had no idea what Chris Palahniuk was going to find with item FL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they're clearly not going to hand over the RAB.
But I seem to remember that at the time it was a case of the state said we can find you this stuff straight away, and Kathleen Zellner said fine, I'll take that and test that straight away, in order to try and get things moving.
Well, they're preparing to give her access to everything, and then Judge Suck prematurely denied her request. And
I think the big blow though was the handing back of those cremains, the bones. That was huge.
Well, we have photo documents of them going through everything before they returned it to the family. So, same day report is the same date on the pictures we have.
But going back to this this whole business of Steve's in prison, he's legally guilty at the moment. Therefore, that's it. You've had all the appeals. That's it. I often compare it to like a sporting occasion. Have we ever had any situations where the sporting event has finished and then the result has been adjusted because of wrongdoing by referees? To me, it seems like they are clinging to this idea that it doesn't happen in a sporting event. And it's almost as if sold as seen. You've
back in the 90s, there was a referee for the NBA that was gambling and got caught.
Did any of the results get changed though?
I don't think so, but
no.
Well, in the I think it was NRL.
The NBA.
It was a Melbourne Storm that they lost They got 2 grand finals taken away from them.
The team did cheating. They won the World Series. They still got their trophy.
Yeah, I mean, there have been precedents. Of course, there have. Probably the greatest would be Lance Armstrong, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the doping. Yeah, but the reality is we know that this is not final because we have exonerations.
Yes.
That's the ultimate proof that the judge's decision is not final. It's negotiable, and on re-examination of evidence, people do get released out of prison. And what you find, it's a common theme. There's a lot of exculpatory evidence that never sees the light of day until it's either released or subpoenaed, and then the truth finally comes out, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, look at all the stuff they had in the safe during Stephen's first case. What do you think they have in the safe now?
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
Where did that missing voicemail go to?
Yes.
Amongst other things.
Correct.
And there's no limit on the number of newly discovered evidence petitions you can bring.
Yes.
Right. So those issues are there forever, potentially.
Correct.
Anyway. So.
Correct. Have you guys heard of a case by the name of Jeffrey Deskovic?
Can't say I have.
Yeah. If you read his case, I'll be very, very quick. If you read his case, it's a fusion of Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey together.
Yeah.
Right? He was 16 years old when he was convicted of rape and murder of one of his classmates, a 15-year-old girl. Right? And he also gave a false confession after 6 hours of interrogation where they led him up a garden path where he thought he was helping the investigators, right? And he eventually got convicted. But when they did, now listen to this, when they did the DNA testing, because it was a rape case, this poor young girl was murdered, but she was raped. The DNA did not belong to him, to Jeffrey. So they knew that. They knew that. But you know what the argument was?
Yeah.
It was the unindicted co-ejaculator.
Yes.
Someone else deposited the semen, but you raped her and you didn't ejaculate. This is a 16-year-old boy.
Seriously.
So they found hair that didn't belong to him. His DNA didn't belong to him. He went to prison for 16 years.
Yep.
And you know how he got out? You know what the new evidence was? The new evidence was to run the DNA into CODIS.
Yeah.
That was the new evidence. So they said, okay, we'll run the DNA into CODIS. And guess what? It got a hit on a person who was in prison for killing another woman.
Yeah.
And the guy confessed.
Yeah.
So this young boy got put into prison for 16 years while the real perpetrator went on and killed somebody else.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What if they still have the CX A23 A13 still available for retesting?
That's it. That's it. And that's the new evidence that Kathleen Zellner can use and say, run it through CODIS. Right? This that young boy, he spent 16 years in prison. His new attorney said his argument was, well, we have the DNA. We know it doesn't belong to Jeffrey. Let's run it through CODIS. And they did. They never did before. They did it deliberately. They didn't run the DNA through CODIS because they thought, oh my God, how about if it actually hits on somebody? And it did. Yeah. They got the guy who was in prison and he confessed to murdering this 15-year-old girl. Yeah. And this guy got released, right? And I think he got over $50 million in compensation. And he's now got an innocent project fund where he's put his own money to get other people out of prison, right? Excellent. So it's exactly what happened to poor Stephen in the Penny Bernstein case, right, that Gregory Allen was free to continue raping and terrorizing others. And it's the same as Brendan because he was coerced. There was no physical evidence against him. They put him in prison for 16 years for rape and murder.
And you know what's interesting reading Mark Dodds's book is he explains a little bit about the sort of the prosecutor's psychology in all of this, in that they don't actually think that they've done anything wrong. They are actually convinced in these people's guilt.
It's a job to them.
Yeah,
my job is to convict that person. I will do what I have to do it.
Correct.
Look at Mark Uyghur won Officer of the Year. First investigation and work on the Halbach case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which then propelled him to become sheriff.
What Mark said. Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say what Mark said in his book.
Yeah.
The moment the investigators spoke to Stephen and Brendan, they already knew they were guilty. There was no, hey, let's find out what happened. Yeah. The assumption was that both men were guilty, and they treated them as such.
Vanessa, the assumption was we're going to find them guilty, and they treated them as such. Yes. In other words, they'd already sentenced them. It was just a question of building the story behind them. So
correct.
You know, just on Mr. Uyghur and Mr. Fassbender, the last week or so I've been rereading the transcripts of Brendan's interviews. Starting with the one at Mishicot High School and then at Two Rivers Police Station and the others. And seriously, Brendan was just so badly abused by those men, which I summarized in a little thing I wrote today on Twitter, that basically Brendan said something that they wanted him to say. He was a good boy. And if he said something that they didn't want him to say, then he was a liar.
Oh, yeah.
That's basically the whole demeanor of how everything went in all those conversations. And, you know, of course, as we know, he had no legal representative in attendance at any stage in any of those interviews. So, and I saw that also today that Tracy Keogh interestingly pointed out in a post she put that during Stephen's sentencing hearing, which was after Brendan's trial. So Brendan's trial nearly followed within a week or 10 days of Stephen's conviction. So Stephen's sentencing hearing happened in the May of 2006. And Dean and Jerry had a sentencing application to put forward. And one of the things they were putting forward that they didn't want, because it wasn't raised as a charge in Stephen's case, they didn't want anything to do with Brendan's confessions being part of the considerations in Stephen's sentencing hearing. And Judge Willis, who actually sentenced Stephen, or at least, you know, was overseeing Stephen's trial and then ultimately the sentencing, actually put out a statement that said that there was serious doubts about the reliability of Brendan Dassey's confession. And by way of example, there was absolutely no evidence that she was ever present in Stephen's trailer at any time. You know, and I'm thinking, well, that was really great for you to say that after Brendan's already been sentenced by another justice. You know, if you already clearly knew that, why didn't you go and have a chat to them as professionals and colleagues and say, you know, whatever you wanted to say? So I just found that really just turned my stomach when I was contemplating what was going on there.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember who signed all the documents. Judge Fox.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And
that's
anyway.
Bizarre.
Signed sworn affidavits where Uyghur was completely lying.
Yeah. But they see that as being the end justifies the means, don't they?
Yes.
And you can see that in the 7th en banc circuit court with Luke Berg and Laura Neureiter. Their presentations in front of the judges, absolutely unbelievable. Luke Berg, in a way, he was like a mini Kratz.
Yeah.
He totally went against everything the judges said. He had a narrative that he followed, and he completely disagreed with anything that the judges said. And what's amazing about Luke Berg's presentation, the judges interrupted him, I counted it, 60 times in his presentation. 60. The judges criticized everything he said. And Luke Berg, he was defiant, right? He said, oh yeah, but they found handcuffs in his bedroom, and they said, yeah, but there was no evidence of any Teresa's DNA on the handcuff. Oh yeah, but they still found handcuffs.
Yeah, it's it's bizarre. One final question for you guys before you go, and that is that this business of handing back these cremains, organised by obviously Tom Fallon, who is the Assistant Attorney General, one of the most powerful people. Some people reckon probably even more powerful than the Attorney General himself, certainly when it comes to this case. And Norm Garn, who actually wrote the preservation statute, and they get together with Uyghur. We don't quite know why they got together. Was it a request from the family, or was it just their idea that we can get rid of this evidence? It'll be nice to hand the holdbacks back some bones that something of Teresa. What should happen to Garn and Fallon in all of this? What are the state gonna fight it tooth and nail to prevent them from facing any repercussions over this?
Well, from the way I see it, they're two officers of the state. They culpably engaged in conduct that they knew was unlawful. At the minimum, they should be dismissed from any post and had any pension taken away from them if they're retired.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just an absolute, thumbing their nose at their own laws, right? That they are above the law. The Judge Willis gave, on Jerry Buting's application, gave an order that any biological evidence was to be preserved. They knew that. They were present. They knew that. So to me, it's culpable behavior that's deserving of prosecution.
The only reason it should have been turned over is if Stephen Avery's dead.
Yeah.
But the point is that this situation has never occurred before, and that there is no precedent to look at. This is what they call de novo, isn't it? This is brand new. This is something that even Wisconsin courts don't even know. In writing this statute, they never lay down what should happen if this statute isn't observed.
Well, perhaps that. Sorry, Dr. Silkman, but perhaps that's true, Paul. But it's at the very least contempt of court, right? Oh,
absolutely.
And there are penalties for contempt of court. You go against the court's ruling, that's contempt of court, and that's the minimum thing they should be caught on. So
yeah, I was going to say, in a way, I know this is going to sound funny. I hope Stephen isn't released because of a technicality per se. I hope Stephen is released because of the truth being found out. I don't know whether the truth will be found out, because surely those lawmakers would have known that what they were doing by giving back biological evidence was against their own statute. Now, their argument, I know what their argument will be. Here's what their argument will be. Well, we gave some of the bones to the FBI, and the FBI weren't able to extract any meaningful DNA. So hence we thought, well, let's give away the bones. However, to counteract that, the statue is there, Paul, because new technology comes, right?
Exactly.
And they knew about the anti-rapid DNA system being developed, right? Yeah. So there are more new sensitive methods, right? Now, you can't extract DNA from bones that are calcined, right? Mm-hmm. But if you look at the box of bones, and also if you look at the pelvic bone that was in the Manitowoc County gravel pit, it was still articulated.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Which means it was still held together. It wasn't completely calcined. So that bone there would have been perfect to try and extract mitochondrial DNA or genomic DNA. Mitochondria will be better, right? So the state thought, oh God, if we actually if someone proves that those bones at the Manitowoc County gravel pit do belong to Teresa Horbach, then we're screwed. Because our case is that she was murdered on the property and never left the property, right? All of a sudden, how can you explain this sudden dispersal of her cremains? And no one does that, right? You're either going to take all the cremains and dump them elsewhere. You're not going to leave them 10 feet behind your back door, right? So I think the state was thinking ahead, Paul, and I thought, no, let's get rid of this biological evidence. Because remember, not one bone has been tested. Only muscle tissue. No bones have, in actual fact, been tested for mitochondrial or genomic DNA. There is no profile. We don't have a profile.
And who did all the testing?
The FBI did the testing and Culhane did the testing.
And Pagel, I need you to put her or him in the car or her or him in the house.
Yeah.
Correct.
Try to place her in the house or the garage.
Yeah. Which I learned.
The car.
Yeah.
Yes, which I learned, guys, is normal. Investigators routinely ring up their crime labs and tell them exactly that.
Oh yeah.
That normally occurs. I was shocked.
Yep. Yeah. But I mean, when you look at stuff like Michael West and his
bite mark.
Yeah, the bite mark guy, Steve Haining. And you think, this is incredible. They're putting adverts in police magazines to advertise for the fact that they've got this fantastic conviction rate because they're able to, be called upon as experts to basically tell the police exactly what they want to secure convictions and therefore to hire them. It's I thought, well, that's bizarre, but surely that's a one-off. But you're finding more and more and more of these, these situations. Look at Dwayne Deaver in the Mike Peterson case and stuff like that. Sorry, I just wanted to ask then, Doctor. As you say, yes, we certainly don't want just a technicality to do the job, but surely. Surely we could let Steve out in the meantime, Stephen Brendan out in the meantime, while further investigation is ongoing.
But you see, but here's the irony.
Yeah.
This is what Laura Nyrider and Steve Drizzen argued the same thing for Brendan. Hey, look, release the kid, put him on bond with his family. Yeah. We can argue it in court, right?
Yep.
And what did Brad Schimel do? An emergency meeting at 2 minutes to midnight, keep that kid in prison because he's a threat.
Oh, that's high risk
to society, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They can't release the boys.
Yeah. Because
it's going to turn Wisconsin upside down if it does.
Yeah. Yep. No, as I said, I just wonder how far. We've got this quote by Earl Avery. Why not just let Brendan go? They have nothing on him. Why are they fighting it? I think we know why they're fighting it because, as you say, it's going to turn everything upside down.
Well, they're fighting it because Brendan and Stephen allegedly committed this crime together.
Yeah.
Right. So why are you selectively letting one go and not the other? I mean, it just unravels the story. They need them both there to keep the story glued.
Yeah.
So.
Correct.
Okie dokie. Well, guess what? We are into our 60th minute already.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. and it's very bright over there at the East Twin River there, Milbillie. Is it? Is it daybreak already?
Midday.
Yes. Sorry, Mark, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'm outside War Pond Prison on a vigil tonight for Stephen.
Well, it looks like it's snowing there. It looks like snow on the ground.
Oh, they had early snow in Wisconsin this year. So
they did. I saw Sandy Greenman post about that.
Yep, it's
and that's the visiting area that you can see up the back there.
Yeah. Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I noticed you, Mr. Capaldi, wearing an orange beanie in some other display somewhere else. Was that?
Yes.
Did you steal that from Milbillie, or what happened?
I got it as a tribute to Milbillie, but also this sort of a beanie for Brendan wearing, So if anybody wants to send me their photograph of them with their beanie, or better still, Becca Nash is the one that organises these sort of things, for Brendan. And yes, I've even got the picture of. Obviously, everybody knows Charlie Berens has got an orange beanie that says "Ope" on it.
Right.
Yeah, and I actually sent him a message earlier in the week and said, when are you going to come on and have a chat with me? Just to do, nothing to do with making a murderer. I really want to speak to Charlie. I'm not too bothered about Charlie Berens, but I really love to speak to Charlie. And he said
he's funny. He's
real
funny.
I know.
He's very clever man. Very clever man.
He said, I'm snowed under at the moment, but in December, check on me again and we'll get something done. So fingers crossed, sometime during the Christmas holidays, I'll get hold of Mark Godsey to come along and have a chat, and Charlie to come along and have a chat. So, and in the meantime, it's great having you guys. Also, Big Dog, yes, we must line up our chat. And if Bose and I can get together and do a bit of debate, that would be good. If not, then one of the things I'd really like to go through with you guys is an article in which Ken Kratz responded just after Making a Murderer came out with his sort of 9 reasons why Steve is guilty. So maybe we can just go through those over the next couple of weeks. No problem.
Okay.
Well,
and
guys,
Paul, thanks so much for doing the reading of the filing. That's been really good.
It was really good from the point of view that what I would do was most times I would read ahead so that I'd got a rough idea as to what was being said. But there's no substitute for actually doing that, is there? For actually reading it out loud, and hopefully, the dude always used to go on about this, didn't he? Get to know the case as much as you possibly can, and better still, know about other cases and other scenarios. So when somebody says, "Oh, that wouldn't happen," you can say, "Well, it did in this case. It did in that case."
Did. Yes.
You
can see the parallels.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, thanks very much, guys, for joining us. And hopefully, all our sporting teams will have done better by next Monday. So catch you all again then.
I'll be in touch, Milbillie. I'll be in touch with you too, my friend.
All right, thanks. I'm still looking for that sign.
Yeah, that's right.
Every time I drive by, it's the Mountain Dew.
Yeah, or Uncle Donald, right?
Yeah, or something about COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay.
No worries.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye.
Cheers.
See ya.